On today's episode of Chicago Bears Now, I'm going to break down the 4 quarterbacks that I believe have a chance to be the starter in 2024. You see Caleb Williams. You see Drake Maye out of North Carolina. You see Jayden Daniels out of LSU. And then, of course, your current starter, who is still under contract and could very well be the starter, Justin Fields. I would be shocked if anyone else was the week 1 starter, barring, training camp injury or something like that. So let's break these guys down on today's show. But I want you guys to fill in the blank first. The Bears starting quarterback in week 1 will be blank. Do you think it'll be Justin Fields? Do you think it'll be Caleb Williams? Do you think it'll be Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, someone else, like a Kirk Cousins perhaps? Let me know. Fill in the blank, and let's break these guys down on today's video. I'm Harrison Graham. You are watching Chicago Bears Now. Like I said, on today's video, we're going to analyze the realistic options to be at Chicago's starting quarterback for the 2024 NFL season. Let's go ahead and dive in here. Let's start with the current guy, Justin Fields. Just finished his 3rd NFL season, and there was definite growth this year. Now, was there enough growth to just automatically roll with him next year and not consider quarterbacks at number 1 pick? Absolutely not. But keeping him is definitely an option. There's no doubt about it. You could trade down and get more capital. You could, even trade down and draft a QB later to kind of hedge with Fields, Philadelphia Eagles style with, Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts. Like, it's not like a bad option to keep Fields. Like, I do want to make that clear. Like, I think this team is trending in enough of a right direction that with him, you can be a playoff team and, quite frankly, should be a playoff team a year from now. I just wish there was a little bit more consistency. I wish there was a little bit more growth. And yes, Luke Getsy did not help him. He did not have the greatest pieces around him. I understand all of that, but you're just in such a unique position to be picking number 1. Now, I will say this. If you keep Fields, I would be very intrigued by the double trade down scenario, which was rumored last year. Remember? They almost traded down with Houston and then again with Carolina in what kind of would have just been a 3-team trade, but the Texans bailed at the last second, and so it became a Bears-Panthers trade. If you do keep Fields, I would consider that option again. Maybe you go from 1 to 2, Washington moves up for Caleb, keeps the hometown kid, and then you go down to like 8 with Atlanta or one of these other teams. There are a lot of QB-needy teams out there that should have interest in Justin Fields. Patriots at 3, Giants at 6, although I don't think that's a fit. Falcons, I do think could be a fit. Maybe Denver. I don't think Vegas is nearly as likely now because I don't think Luke Getsy and Justin Fields reuniting in Vegas is a great idea. But I do think a double trade down could be possible, and it would certainly fetch you a lot of draft capital, right? I mean, if you trade down from 1 to 2, especially if that trade idea that's been rumored of getting the Commanders first next year and the number 40 overall pick this year in addition to the 2nd pick, that's a pretty good offer to move down 1 spot. And then say you move down to Atlanta, you're getting at least another future first plus another 2nd and maybe something else. Like, yeah, it's enticing. There's no doubt about it. So keeping Fields is on the table. There are legitimate reasons to do so. I do want to make that clear. Do you want to keep Justin Fields? If you do, spam JF1 in the comment section below. Spam JF1 if you want to keep Justin Fields. And, hey, I know a lot of you guys are out there. Let's go with the most commonly named quarterback that's been linked to Chicago the last, I'll say, month or so. That is USC's Caleb Williams. NFL reporters, national, local, talking heads, mock draft experts, just flat-out reporters like Schefter and Rappaport, they all pretty much say the same thing, that while it's not a done deal, the league expects the Bears to take Caleb Williams. Now, is that based on things Ryan Poles has said privately? Is that just connecting dots that makes sense? A lot of it is when they talk to other GMs, they all say that. Now, it only matters what Ryan Poles thinks and does, right? Just because 7 other GMs said, oh, you have to take Caleb, doesn't mean he will. But it does mean it's pretty likely, I would think, right? Because if a lot of GMs are all saying the same thing, You would think the Bears GM would be thinking similarly as well. We've gone over the pros and cons, the physical talent. He can make all the throws. The experience and production is fantastic. The creation is impressive. He can feel pressure and avoid and do special things. Now, sometimes that does lead him into going into Superman mode too much. He does hold the ball too long at times. I do want to add the caveat that his offensive line this year was pretty damn bad. I was watching some film the other day. He took a shotgun snap, and the left tackle, his first step back, he literally just falls on his ass. Like, wasn't touched, wasn't even an edge over there. He literally stepped back, fell, and just free rusher all of a sudden comes. So, like, it was not a clean operation last year at USC for a variety of reasons. But I think the floor is high. I think the ceiling is very high. There's a lot to like here. If you sit in front of him at the NFL Combine, which I'll get to do, I'm going to go to the NFL Combine later this month, which is why I'm holding off my ultimate final decision here. If he checks that box, like if the Bears take him to dinner in Indianapolis and they feel great about the person, which Ryan Poles has talked about, the leadership ability, then I find it hard to believe that they would pass on this opportunity. Don't think it's a done deal, but I do think at this point in time that is the most likely scenario, but things could certainly change. We'll talk about Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels here in a second, avenues to where they end up in Chicago. But we got to talk about today's sponsor, Mando. Guys, don't be the smelly guy. Don't be the stinky guy. It's a new year, no stink. Usually they say new year, new me. It should be a new you with no stink. Today's show is sponsored by Mando, the makers of Lume deodorant. Mando is here to make sure you showcase your best hygiene this year. If you suffer from stinky fink, armpits, or even below the belt, don't be embarrassed. Just keep going with Mando. The Mando doctor developed a clinically proven odor blocker. New customers, by the way, get $5 off at shopmando.com with promo code CHAT, so check that out. The Mando starter pack includes a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like body wash and deodorant wipes, plus free shipping. So stop being the smelly guy in the car when you're traveling. Ditch that stink and get going with Mando today. That's shopmando.com, promo code CHAT. Shopmando.com, promo code CHAT gets you $5 off, which, by the way, is more than 40% off their starter pack here. It's a great deal. Link is in the comments and in the description. Shopmando.com and start smelling better. No more body odor. Get going with Mando. All right, let's get to Drake Maye here, who at one point in the college football season, it seemed to be that there was momentum to him potentially being QB1, and maybe there's some teams where that's still the case, but he didn't finish super strong. Caleb didn't either, to be fair, but his last couple of games weren't great. I still really like Drake Maye as a prospect. He's mobile. He's strong arm. I think if you could, out of all of these QB prospects, who's built the best, it's Drake Maye. He's 6'4", 6'5", 220, 230. He's got the frame. He can add to that frame too. There's still room to add to it. So, like, 2 years from now, he could be 6'5", 240. Like, that's very much a possibility. A little less experienced than a Caleb Williams, but very productive in 2 seasons. The mobility is very underrated. He can run for first downs. He can escape pockets and throw on the run accurately. So he can do all that stuff. The cons are that less experience is a slight concern, but 2 years is still pretty good. He is careless at times. I saw a stat where he leaves clean pockets. This applies to Jayden Daniels too, at a much higher rate than a lot of these other draftable prospects, even the J.J. McCarthys and the Bo Nixes of the world. He also takes too many hits. I don't love that. He's got to be willing to get down at the NFL level, but there's a lot to like here. I think the makeup is there. I do wonder if he would thrive more in a smaller market situation just because he did play at North Carolina. But I'm not one of those people that, it didn't work with Mitch from North Carolina. It's not going to work with Maye. I think it very well could work with Drake Maye, and there's a lot to like about his skill set. And I also don't really get this recent report that he could slip in the draft. Lance Zierlein saying he'd heard from a scout that if one of these quarterbacks dips, it's going to be Drake Maye, which is kind of bizarre and interesting to me. I guess we'll see how that shakes out over the next couple months. But I still expect him to go top 3 because this is a very QB-needy draft, and he's one of the top 3. There's no doubt about it. Now, pick a quarterback. We're going to talk about Jayden Daniels in a second. Who would you rather have? Type DM for Drake Maye or JD for Jayden Daniels. I think for the Bears specifically, I'd rather have Drake Maye. We know weather comes into play here, and his arm strength, I think, is going to be important in the month of December and January. I do have questions about Daniels' arm strength in those windy conditions. But Daniels' mobility obviously is a plus as well, so I could certainly see people on that side of things. Let's talk about JD. Jayden Daniels, the LSU quarterback, who's had a wild career, man. Goes to Arizona State, kind of up and down for 3 years. He was a very high recruit. Goes into the transfer portal, plays at LSU, has a pretty good fourth college football season. Could have been drafted last year, probably would have gone like fourth round. Goes back to school, and then just has this monster season. I do think, even though there's chatter, make a dip, maybe Daniels doesn't go as high as we think. I still think if you want one of these guys, you got to stay in the top 3, because I'd be shocked if it wasn't QB, top 2 picks, and maybe New England does something different at 3, but like if you want to secure a quarterback, you got to stay in the top 3 here if you want one of these top 3 guys. So I certainly think that applies to Daniels and Drake Maye, but you see the production there, which led him to winning the Heisman Trophy. The accuracy really improved. One thing Daniels does, I think maybe even better than Caleb and Drake, is his deep ball touch is really good. Like he can kind of throw that Russell Wilson moon ball. Like he really does. He can drop it in the pocket, in the bucket. You see a lot of those like slot fades on LSU's tape where he's just throwing to the pylon, right? Like 1st and 10 from the opposing 30. He's throwing it to the front or the back pylon. Very accurate with the deep ball throw, so you like that. You love the experience. He's been through it all, right? Up and downs. Comes to LSU. They lean on him because the defense was rough, and he carried them to 2 good seasons. So you're a big fan of that. The frame is concerning. He put on weight this year. I think he's going to come in 205, 210. But for being 6'4", that's pretty thin. He also played with 2 potential top 10 picks in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Does that count? Should that count against them? It's hard to say, but it certainly helps to put up big numbers with players like that. And can he work consistently in a pocket? He certainly improved as a pocket passer, but I do think he's a guy that does look to escape and to take off when those lanes open up, which you like, but you also at times just say, hang in there, find the 8-yard slant and move on to the next play. You got to pick and choose when that all comes into play. You look at some other QB prospects. Michael Penix Jr. I still have as the 4th best QB in this draft. It's all going to be medicals for him, but I don't think he is in that range for top 3 or, quite frankly, even the number 9 pick. J.J. McCarthy, he's only 21. You're hoping for physical growth. The intangibles are all there. I mean, he's a winner. He's a leader. People rave about him at Michigan. I see an average-ish prospect, though. Like, I'd grade him as like a second-round guy, even though he'll probably go first. Bo Nix, you love the experience, but gimmicky offenses throughout college, doesn't throw the ball downfield at a very high rate. I would have concerns in round 1. Spencer Rattler had a strong week at the Senior Bowl. If you do keep Justin Fields, I'm intrigued by taking him on day 2. 2nd, 3rd round, something like that. So keep an eye on that possibility if the Bears keep Justin, because if you do keep him, I think bringing in competition or at least like a high-level developmental guy makes sense to hedge yourself a little bit there. You look at veterans, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew. Cousins might leave Minnesota, but I don't view the Bears situation right now as let's go get a vet. That doesn't make sense to me. I could see Atlanta doing that. I could maybe even see New England doing that, Denver. But I don't think the Bears fall into that bucket. They're either going to keep Fields or they're going to take a quarterback number 1. That's the way I see it. So fill in the blank. The Bears starting quarterback in week 1 will be blank. We just broke down the 4 players I think are most likely to be Chicago's starter. Again, I haven't given my final answer yet. I'll do that after the NFL Combine. But, I'd be lying if I said I don't think the most likely outcome at this point is Caleb Williams. But the Combine might be that final kind of benchmark for Ryan Poles and his staff. So it'll be very interesting to see how it all plays out. Be subscribed so you don't miss out on any of it, as it's going to be a hell of a journey here on Chicago Bears Now. And stay tuned for more videos.